would like to introduce our final speaker, Shawn Adamson. Shawn is a VP of Sales Strategy and Operations at Comcast Business. She has built her own technology career over the past 20 years, and she is growing successful companies and revenue channels from the early stages to growth. And she's also learning successful digital customer experience and operational transformations. Please join me in welcoming Shawn Adamson.
Thanks, Devin. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm the last presentation before lunch, and somehow, I don't know if I'm lucky, I almost always get that slot. Like the last of the day or something like that. Maybe it's because I talk really fast, and so I'm like the anchor. But I promise this will be fun before lunch, and I did bring some audience engagement prizes. So we got a few little Starbucks gift cards over here with my lovely assistant, and also some DoorDash for those late night study sessions. So we'll try to make this fun and interactive, and I want to allow time for questions because I think that's probably the most valuable part of the session is just Q&A. So I'm Shawn Adamson. I'm a lifelong Ute. I'm a mom to a current Ute, and super proud there. I have the privilege of being part of the David Eccles Advisory Board, and that I'm here, on behalf of Comcast Business. We will be at the Career Fair. You do want to come talk to us there at the Career Fair. Great company, great place to work. Part of the overall Comcast NBC Universal company. So if you don't want to work at Comcast Business, you can work at NBC Universal if you want to, or other places. But please come talk to us. So and I want to apologize, I guess, in advance because my presentation is in the wrong colors. So as I thought about this, again, as a lifelong Ute, I was like, this is definitely like kind of between BYU and Aggie Blue. I don't know. But Comcast is a Comcast Blue company, so don't hold that against us. We actually like to buy a lot of companies that have blue in their name. We own a company in Dublin, Ireland called Blueface. We own Deep Blue. We own Blue Vector. So if you start a company here and you name it Blue, we might buy it one day. So I wanted to talk a little bit about understanding sales to propel your career. And what does that mean? And what I meant by that, and the intention was, no matter what you're going to do with your career, no matter what role or what department, or you're starting a company or you're going to work at a company, what I hope to convince you is how valuable sales knowledge can be. Whether you take the courses that are offered here, or you do a part-time sales job, or you just engage and lean into the sales department, or you shadow sales people, I want to tell you a little bit, I'll tell you a little bit about my story, but how it can totally propel your career. So there's a statement, nothing happens until somebody sells something. I think it's so important to understand the value of sales to businesses. So who here watches Shark Tank? Has anybody seen that show, Shark Tank? Yeah, a lot of people, that's cool. So I love that. What's one of the first questions the sharks always ask? Every business that's presenting, trying to get a share. What's the question they ask? You in the blue shirt. How much you sold? Exactly. Kennedy, can he have a little Starbucks card over there? That was great. Correct, right? And do you love their reactions, right? So you get these supercharged up people and they're presenting their business and they're like, what do you have in sales? And they're like, well, we've had about $10,000 in sales, and what do the sharks do? Everybody's gonna pass, right? And then you get some little elementary kid up there with their mom, right? And they're presenting their business, and the sharks say, what are your sales? And they say, well, we've sold just 1.1 million in our first year. And the sharks are all like, I want in, right? Because it's the most important thing to a business. It's the lifeblood of the business. It's cash flow. It pays for everything else in the business. So even if you're not in the sales department, you have no aspiration to be in the sales department, it's so critical to understand what it is. There was a statement, and I love this. It said, sales to a business is like oxygen to humans. Businesses can't exist without it. And so if it's that vital and it's that important to a business, everybody should know about it, right? Everybody should have an understanding of sales. So I have another question for another little gift card here. Can somebody tell me approximately of all the jobs out there available to all of you that will graduate or graduate soon or graduate later, what percentage of those jobs or how many of those jobs are sales related? Just if you get close. Right here. 70%. Nope. But I appreciate you. In the back. 90%. Nope. Devin. You guys are way high and I love it because you guys are interested in sales. It's right there. It's right there, right? It's right there. So who was the closest? I lost track. Devin was closest. Okay, so a Little Starbucks over there. So 13% of all jobs in the US, 1 in 8 are full-time sales positions. Point of that is that it's a highly valued, it's very important. There are a lot of job opportunities, and a lot of people start their careers in sales. Just like we're handing out these Starbucks gift cards, the CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, where did he start? Sales for Xerox, that's right. Started his career in sales. So a lot of people will start their career in sales. Why? Because there's always sales roles available. Sometimes, in your initial opportunity, you can go into that, and that can be invaluable for launching your career, regardless of what you're going to go into. So a little harder question. Maybe this one for a DoorDash, little prize. What's the total investment of all the businesses in the United States, annual investment into sales departments, sales? How much money do businesses across the United States spend in a year? Let's see who gets close. Nobody's brave enough? Right there. 650 billion. Okay, we got 650 billion. We got a different number from anybody? 100 billion? 300 billion? Who said right there? Somebody throw out, I heard another answer. Is that Devin again?
I don't want to take it this time, but I want to say at least $1 trillion to $2 trillion. Yeah.
Congratulations, Devin. You get the DoorDash card. Well done. Right? So again, it's just going back to the importance of it, right? If businesses are going to spend over $1 trillion on sales, should be an important thing, I think, for everybody to learn. And then I'll give you a glimpse. So this is going to a more boring slide, but here we are. All in the blue, all in the Comcast Business blue. This is what I do. So what I do today for Comcast Business, and I'm going to take you a little bit through my career and a little bit about why I think sales is so relevant no matter what you're doing. But for Comcast Business, I joined Comcast Business 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we were a $2 billion company annually. Today, we're almost $10 billion. We'll hit $10 billion in 2023. And we'll do that because of the success of our sales channels. And what does that look like for us? And if you look at the trajectory, so we've had over 15% compounded annual growth rate. That's a company you want to be with. Exciting things happening. We serve over 2.5 million businesses. And we only started this business about 15 years ago. So think about that for a second. We actually serve more business customers than any other telecommunications provider, period. And we're more the up-and-comer. And so how do we go about growing that business and driving that business? Well, we employ over 3,000 sales executives at Comcast Business. And they don't sell products, and they don't sell services. They sell solutions. They work with businesses to solve problems. It's a pretty cool job, actually. And we have a lot of sales engineers, and that's kind of an interesting, I'm going to talk about that a little bit in my career. We're going to talk about both at the career fair if you're interested. Sales engineer, swear, coolest job ever that I've ever had. But that's a really cool job. But we have a lot of things that are aligned to the sales profession. But when you're leading sales strategy and operations, and yes, it's actually a career and a thing, and I actually have a large organization of people. And these are the things we focus on. How do we go to market? What are the channels that we need in sales? What's our best way to drive revenue and market share? Fun fact, every 20 seconds a business buys from Comcast Business. We think that's kind of a cool stat. And this year we'll drive over $100 million in monthly recurring sales. The best things about telecom, one of the reasons I love it, is the money is recurring, the revenue is recurring. You sell a customer, they pay every single month for the life of the contract, or as long as you're providing a valuable solution to them. So great opportunity, but this is the level, like how it looks at a large company. We're a very large company. Like I said, we'll get to $10 billion, but we're constantly focused on optimizing our sales channels, how we engage with customers. Digital plays a big portion of that. And if you ever aspire one day to lead this for a company like that and be in sales strategy and sales operations, this is kind of how you spend your day of how do we most effectively go after that opportunity and how do we help drive growth in the business. And I can't remember if I have another little trivia question, so I have to cheat, I have to peek. So I don't skip ahead. Nope, I don't. I have another boring slide, just kidding. Okay, so one of my, the objectives trying to cover and get everybody engaged in is no matter what department you want to work in, again, sales is so important, and it's a mystery usually to people who haven't done it. So people who haven't been in sales or haven't worked in the sales department, they just really don't understand it. And I work with people every day who are super smart people, right? People, yes, who got their graduate degree, who are doing finance analytics, who are doing big data for us, and they'll continually say, wow, I just wish I understood sales better, right? I just wish I understood it better. And I actually envisioned starting my career, well, I did start my career in IT, and I wanted to just be in IT. I loved it. I loved technology. I thought that was the coolest department, the coolest place to be. It paid really well. I started that when I was in school still, and I thought I wanted to, one day be a CIO. Later, someone explained to me that stands for career is over. Not what I thought it was, and it has a really high turnover rate. So maybe not the career, and I didn't end up there, but that's because my career kind of deviated. But demystifying sales and really understanding it, and this is what I'm encouraging everybody to do. Again, even if you never intend to work in sales, or if you get some time there, do you understand things like funnel? What does that mean? Do you understand things like conversion rate? What does that mean? Do you know for your business how long your sales cycle is, right? And let's say you want to start a business, and you're not going to do the selling. You're going to hire someone to sell it for you. How do you know if they're really good? How do you know when they tell you how long it will take you to build up a sales channel or how long it will take you to hit a certain revenue level? How do you ask the intelligent questions? The more you understand about sales and the more you demystify it, the more successful you'd be in that example of a CEO of a startup. But let's say you're in finance. Let's say you get a great job and you're a finance analyst. Maybe you're working for Comcast Business, and we want to really understand a revenue outlook for maybe a new product we're launching or maybe a company we're buying. And sales gives you a forecast. You have to take that forecast and put it into revenue realization. How do you know? How do you know if it's a good forecast? You just say, well, sales must know what they're doing, right? But at the end of the day, you're the finance analyst who owns that forecast for revenue, and you want to deliver. And that's a lot of the conversations I have with people that say, gosh, I wish I knew more about sales. Or I wish I'd taken sales because I wish I understood more of the mechanics, and I wish I could understand questions or, to ask to make sure that we've got good data. But anywhere you are in this business organization, wherever your career takes you, if you can understand sales, whether you took courses or you lean in or you go be a sales rep for a day, most companies will let you just go do it for a day. And doesn't mean that's not scary. You just shadow somebody all day and kind of see what they do. But the more you understand about it, the more it will help your career. And again, I swear we're going to get to a real example. We need to give away something else. I don't know. I got to figure that out. Okay. So these are just examples of in every sales role. And I know some of the other speakers talked about sales skills are pervasive. They help you in every aspect of your career. You're selling all the time, whether you're selling your professor on really taking that grade to an A, that is a sales job, you're doing a great job, or when you're out there interviewing and looking for a job, you're definitely selling yourself. So those skills are pervasive, but also if you just think about the roles, and there's just examples here that how you can really lean in. And some of you will go and you'll get your first frontline sales role, your first frontline role, I should say, whether it's in sales or not. The more you understand about sales, the more you can align your efforts to the success of that company in sales, the better your career will do. And I'll tell you, it'll elevate your career, accelerate, right, in terms of your opportunity. So this is a little bit of an eye chart, but this is a little glimpse of my career. So there's typically two types of careers as you look at it and embark. There's a ladder progression, which is kind of traditional there, and there's a lattice pathway. Can anybody give me an example of like a ladder, more of a linear career path example? Anybody have something that comes to mind where that makes sense? Have I mystified everybody with the two squiggly charts at the bottom? Right there.
Like the service industry, like let's say you work in a restaurant, you start as like an associate, maybe a cook or whatever, and you can work your way up to management.
Yeah, I think that's great. Can he get a little gift card over there? Kennedy will decide what you've earned. Just kidding. So linear, and ladder is very typical and very traditional, and it's not bad by any means. So, it could look like you get that first analyst job, then you're a senior analyst, then you're a manager in finance, then you're a director in finance, and one day you're the CFO. And that's very, linear. You've stayed in one function, one discipline for your career, and you've done very well for yourself. Could also be in sales. You start as a sales rep, start as a sales move up to a sales manager, then you're a sales director, then one day you're a glorious sales vice president. And then one day you're leading other functions. That's very, very linear. My career has not been like that. My career has definitely been a lattice. I'm the squiggly one. Some of it intentional and some of it accidental. But I believe that a lattice career path can give you so much growth and development. It can help you accelerate your career. If you're open to being outside your comfort level, your comfort zone, and you think a little differently and you pivot. So a little bit of just about me. So I started out as a software developer. I thought that was the job I really wanted to do because it paid so well and I was good at it. I started coding as a kid, was awesome, until I really did it for paid employment. And then I really decided it didn't help. And I did it as an internship for a little company called Dow Chemical. So if you guys are out there looking for internships can be great. They are great. They'll convince you love that job or you hate it. In my case, I hated it. Just a lot of it's not fun. It's more fun to do it as a hobby, not fun to do it for life. And so I took a job. And this is actually, as I was leaving the university, took a job as an IT specialist. Nothing really fancy about it. It's kind of like the IT grunt of the IT department. It's kind of like the lowest level position I think that you could be in. But one thing I did in the IT specialist job, I didn't know anything about sales. I didn't even know who our customers were, I'm embarrassed to say, but that's a true story at our company. I was just focused on IT and what we were doing in the IT department. But I noticed that there was a function and they were entering sales orders. And back then the sales orders, this was a telecommunications company, were on paper. They actually took paper from customers. And they were like putting them into like spreadsheets. And they were doing all this activity that just seemed tedious and monotonous. And so it was this really small startup company that I was at. I went to my manager and I said, I could write an app this weekend to do that and automate that, but I want to get paid. Can I get paid? Can I get paid overtime hours if I spend my weekend on it? And he was just like, I think he was like, whatever, crazy lady. We're not sure what you could do, but sure, we'll pay you. So I went home that weekend. I spent the whole weekend and I wrote this app and I automated how they took their sales orders into the company. And all I thought about was I just saw a problem and I just wanted to solve it and I didn't think about it. But what I didn't understand then, and I didn't know anything about, was that helped that company do something called revenue realization, right? Take sales and turn them into revenue more quickly. We take the order, we get it more quickly, we get the services to the customer, we get a bill to the customer pays us, it accelerates revenue coming into the company. Well, that little effort that I did, where I was just happy I got paid for it, it was again a small company, but the president of the company for the first time ever walked over to my cube, shook my hand, introduced himself and said, I wanted to say hello, I heard about the great work you did automating our sales orders. I kind of think now, if I had made something faster for IT, I don't think I would have got that handshake. If I had found a way for us to process invoices faster, for payables, for accounting, I don't know if anybody would have cared besides the accounting folks. But because I did something that accelerated revenue and sales without knowing it, I got a higher level of attention. And that's kind of what I'm talking about leaning in and understanding sales. And when you go into your first role, whatever it is, if you're not in the sales department, try to lean in and align to it. I got promoted at that company to the IT manager role. And in the IT manager role, I was just focused on keeping our servers up, serving our customers, what I was doing with that. But I happened to be, when I was in that manager role, I got to engage with the sales managers. Didn't know anything about sales, again, didn't know anything about our customers. But I'd overhear things, and I was overhearing the sales managers talking about how difficult it was. They were having a hard time selling to larger customers, and larger customers are good because they pay you more money as a business, so they're good. We like larger customers. They had a hard time selling to larger customers because our competitors had something really cool called digital billing, and our bills were delivered on paper, and it literally was every call was on a piece of paper. So if you were a big business that made a lot of calls, you got your bill in a big stack like this of paper. You got boxes delivered with packing tape, and that was how your bill came. But our competitors had been able to put that digital and deliver that and actually give it to businesses where they could actually look through their call detail and see records. So we couldn't do this. We were a small company. But the sales managers were just so sure that would help them land bigger accounts. So I went and just researched what it would take for us to do it, and could I figure out a way where we could do this digital billing thing. And I kind of figured out like a hack kind of way to do it, where we could do an extract of our billing and we could give it to them. And I needed some equipment, I needed some software, a certain set of investment money. So I went back to the sales managers. This is my first understanding, really, partnership with the sales department. And I said, hey, I think I could do this for you guys, but I would need like $50,000 or whatever the capital was. I think it was about that amount. And if you're ever in the IT department, you're trying to argue for funds, no one wants to give them to you, by the way. Normally, the CFO's job is to say no. At least the first time, second time, third time, usually they say no. But I went to the sales managers. We went together to our CFO and said, hey, I can do this for sales. And the sales manager said, if we could have this, we could sell X. We could drive additional sales and revenue. Easiest $50,000 I've ever gotten, I think, in terms of investment. We did the digital billing. That company, not just because of that, but because of what we continue to do to evolve, that company tripled in size in 3 years, and we had a very successful exit into a much larger company, which earned me a promotion to director of IT. So that's just a story about no matter what department you're in, if you understand how the business makes money and you understand the drivers and you're able to lean in, you could be really successful. Sales can also be great too, and we're getting to that. But so from that director of IT position, I was a director in a publicly traded company. The company happened to move their headquarters to the East Coast. I was living in Salt Lake City. I love Salt Lake City. I lived here for a long time. I live in Denver, which is almost as cool, kind of, as Salt Lake City today. But I didn't want to move to the East, and I wanted to stay in Salt Lake City, but I also wanted to stay with that company. It was a great company. And so I started looking around about what roles could I take in Salt Lake City. And we had this new role. We just bought another company that had complex solutions, and so we'd created a role called sales engineer. Coolest job ever. Is it the coolest job ever, John Webb? John Webb is one of our leaders of sales engineering at Comcast Business. But so I didn't even know what it was. I certainly didn't know anything about sales, but it allowed me to live in Salt Lake City, not travel. I was becoming a new parent. There were a bunch of things going on in my life that it really aligned to. So I took this pivot, and I really just thought I'd do it for 12 months. That was my whole plan. I'm going to do it start to finish, 12 months, and then I'm going to go back to IT and go back to where the cool people are, in the IT department. Not that they're really cool, but so I did this sales engineer job, and lo and behold, I just found out I learned so much, right? As a sales engineer, you go out and solve problems every day. You go. The coolest part is you don't get stuck inside your own company all day long. You get to meet with all kinds of businesses and all kinds of companies, and you see, what's happening with those businesses. But I did the sales engineer pivot, really loved it, stayed longer than I thought. A bunch of my IT friends are making fun of me for being in the sales department, and they said, "Why would you do that? Why did you join sales?" And I said, "Man, if you knew what it paid, you'd be over here too." Because it can be just fantastic. And I've done a bunch of other pivots. I'm running kind of long on time, so I'll keep us moving. But scariest move I ever made was sales manager. I wasn't going to do that. I liked the sales engineering space. I was comfortable there. I liked the sales operations space. I was comfortable there. But the company came to me and said, "We think you should be a sales manager." And I was like, "No way. No way." There's a thing called quota. I don't really understand it, but it sounds scary. There's a lot of pressure over there. Those people are either high-fiving and jumping on top of their desks, or they're like crying. There's a lot of emotion over there. I don't want to do it. But I had a great mentor who advised me. I was really afraid of it. And he said, he was a great external mentor. He said, "What are you most afraid of?" And I said, "Losing my job." And he said, "Okay, let's play that out. Worst case scenario." And simple as it is, I needed somebody to tell me this. He's like, "Let's say you go and you're a sales manager you're not good at and you get fired." I said, "Exactly. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen." He's like, "So what? Can't you go back to IT? Can't you do something else?" I was like, "Oh. It doesn't make you unemployable. It doesn't end your life. It doesn't end your career. It just means you tried something that didn't work out." But here's the thing. If you understand sales and you really learn it and you know how to drive sales for a business, you can do anything you want to do. You can take your technology background, you can take your operations background, and you can translate it into any role you want. So I'm so glad I got that advice. I did the scary thing. I was pretty sure I'd get fired, but I did it anyway. I learned everything I could about being a successful sales manager. I did not get fired. And then we're off and running, and it's just a fantastic career. And since then, I earned a general manager spot. I became a regional vice president at 2 different companies. Very cool job as well. Comcast recruited me. It's one of the ways I came over to Comcast Business. But I then took a pivot back and did a division vice president of operations, which is leading like service delivery and service assurance and all those kinds of functions. And I did that because I wanted to leave an organization of 1,200 employees and really learn it. And then that led me to my current role, which I've been in just under two years, where I am leading sales strategy and sales operations. So pretty cool thing. I guess, my point of that is lean into sales when you can. If you get the opportunity to do it in your career, take it. Don't be afraid of the risk. And I think a lattice career could be really rewarding. So is there anybody in this room, I'm just curious, that still says and it's fine, this is cool, you can raise your hand, have no desire to ever work in sales anyway, just kind of like, man, that is not my thing. Like, I am going to be the best CFO ever, or the best, there we go, be bold. You raise that high, you don't have to you can just go, yeah, right, okay. Well, this slide's for you, my friend. Only 39% of salespeople intended to go into sales, right? I'm one of the 4.1 million as well, right? Accidental sales professionals, right? But for those of you who are really interested in sales, it is really cool. There's things called President's Club, lots of vacations, trophies, lots of awards, great earning career. But it's okay not to be in sales either, as long as you try to lean into it, I think, to help your career.
I'm in sales enablement.
There you go. Everybody in the whole company is basically in sales enablement. Yep, if they're not in sales. There you go. But you never know. Never know. All right, Q&A. We got a couple of cards here for some audience engagement, so we have time for a little Q&A. Right here.
From your experience when looking at people who first start their career in sales, what are some common mistakes or areas of improvement that you've seen?
In their career path, or just attempting sales?
Yes.
I think being too impatient a little bit. Sales isn't easy. I don't think a lot of jobs are easy, but sales isn't easy. So I think sometimes being impatient with yourself and knowing that you're learning and you're leaning in and you're working on it, or expecting instant success, right? It's a profession like anything else. It's a science like anything else, and it takes a little while to learn it, right? So I think sometimes I see people get frustrated, maybe try to give up kind of too soon, like, I'm not good at this. But, I think you got to give yourself enough time, get enough support, companies like ours and others, I mean, we employ sales coaches and sales leaders and all kinds of functions to support salespeople. And it's probably like they say to you here at the school, use the resources we have, right? There's all these resources to help you. So I think that's probably it, just a level of impatience to learn and really be successful. Good things usually come with time. Sales is like that too. If you look at our sales individuals in our company and of my last company too, so just true in general, they tend to do in their second year, they tend to almost double the performance they had in year one if they wait. And usually their third year is their most lucrative year. And your earnings actually just look like this. I mean, I can chart it for you, year one, year two, year three. So it's the patience and the sticking with it can make it really lucrative. Thank you. She gets a little gift card over here because she asked a question. Okay, right back there.
Yeah, are there significant pain points for moving from like a company that's maybe in the mid-market to like an enterprise company? And if there is, like, what are some ways to mitigate them?
From a company level or an individual?
From an individual.
An individual? I think everything is scale. There's definitely things to learn and things are different, but selling is pretty universal generally, right? You have customers, you're trying to understand and solve problems, provide solutions. The complexity grows, like if you're talking about sales specifically, the complexity definitely grows, right? I think our keynote speaker, she did a great job of talking about the number of buyers, right? She's the people in the decision-making process at a large company like 11. Right? So, we have a lot of roles in our business that sell into small business, and when you're selling to a small business, you're selling to the business owner, right? Go to the business owner, maybe it's like an auto body shop or something, and you're providing their solution, and you're consulting them on technology, and that's one person you're convincing. But when you move up, and you're selling to Walgreens, right? There's a whole committee of people that you're selling to and involving and stuff like that. So I think the sales cycle grows in complexity. And so refining your sales skills like early on and building on your sales skills and then learning a more complex and elongated sales process. In terms of pivoting from small companies to big companies, I've been at both, right? I've been at startups and small stage companies, and now I'm at like the biggest company I ever imagined. I never imagined I would work at a company as large as we are. I don't know. I think a couple of things. I guess I'd say career-wise too. Let me point out. Small companies give you the opportunity sometimes to wear many hats and do many things, right? They tend to be unstructured. A lot of stuff's not written down. You're just holding the place together, whatever. But you're running around doing a lot of stuff. So those can be great for your career. They can get you into leadership potentially earlier. They did in my case. But large companies have just a huge plethora of jobs for you and opportunities, and usually offer more career development, more leadership development. I've been part of several leadership development programs. So at large companies, sometimes you have a really great opportunity to grow your career. So they can both be good in different stages. Does that answer your question? Okay. And then I saw, right here.
Yeah, so the reason I said 90% earlier is one, because I misheard the question, and two, because my professor always says like 90% of entry jobs out of college will be sales. Like most of you will probably be in sales.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, sales jobs sort of have this stigma.
Yeah.
Of becoming like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a sales job or
Yeah.
whatever. So I guess my question is, were you ever discouraged by, I guess, accidentally going into sales, or did you ever think of it as like sort of lesser, or also what would you say to sort of fight that stigma?
Yes, yes, and yes. So, people think of sales and they think of timeshare sales, or they think of, I don't know, selling cars, although today that's a pretty elegant process for most of us. But, you think of your worst example and they think of pushiness, right, or aggressiveness, and that's not really what it is, and especially not in technology sales, and I think, Mark was here and presented on, medical device sales, complex businesses, and where you're trying to solve that. So, yes, I think I had my own bias, honestly. I don't think I know I didn't respect the sales profession when I was in IT. You do it for a living, you do spend some time there, you really respect how hard that job is and how good of a job those people do. So I think that's part of it, like myself getting comfortable and getting past the bias. I always say laugh all the way to the bank is the other way, because you're making more money than any of them if you're in sales, right? And I got this question, so this is funny. So and it's still, for people who haven't been in the sales department, they do tend to kind of still rate it kind of low. They just don't understand the power. What I'm sharing with all of you about how important is the business and why you should align to it, they don't always understand. So I was interviewing for my current role. I was leading a very large operations existence, so very non-sales, right? involved on service delivery, service assurance, taking care of Comcast business customers, millions of them. And I got that question. So I was interviewing with the senior executive, and they're like, why do you want to go back to sales? And I was sitting in my home office doing that over Zoom, and I happened to have all of my glass sales trophies behind me in a beautiful bookcase we had built just for that effect. A lot of them President's Club, right? I've been to exotic resorts I could never afford to go to, frankly, with my husband via President's Club. And I said, because they don't give you any of that. And this person was like, oh, that makes sense. But my point wasn't, it isn't about the trophies, it's about the recognition. I said, your impact to the business is always higher valued if you're tied to revenue than if you're just tied to expense. That's just it's the sad state. That was a challenge for me in operations, trying to motivate my teams all the time because it's hard for the business to see you as much of a value as they do the sales department. It's why the company spends more money on the sales department than any other department. So I think it's, getting comfortable with yourself. I would say, honestly, that's like what I said to my IT pals who thought it was really lame I was in the sales department. I'm like, man, if you knew what they gave away here and if you knew what these jobs paid, you'd be over here too. So laugh all the way to the bank. Yeah, and it is a profession. And I think we all got to help educate everybody else that it is a very serious profession. Thank you. Do we have any more? Okay, she gets that right there. And then we're there. Okay, any other questions? Right here?
So I'm kind of curious, because you kind of had that outside path that
Yeah.
came into sales, you spoke a bit about getting out of your kind of familiarity and getting a bit more comfortable and kind of chasing after things.
Get ready to be fired.
You
Yeah.
don't really have, don't have like getting those outside skills, right?
Yeah.
So someone who's already invested in sales and is planning on going into sales, what would be like an outside skill that maybe you would say something to kind of chase after that would help out?
I think everything about the sales process, right? Refining everything about the sales process and really understanding it because it is a process. And if you want to elevate in sales and you want to become in sales leadership, fun fact, one of the easiest ways usually to get into leadership is in sales. There's more sales leadership opportunities pretty much than anything else. And if you want to be in sales leadership, you have to understand how to repeat the process, right? It can't be something that you just do well. You have to be able to take a whole team of people and help them all do it well. And so you have to understand how to replicate that, how to scale it, and also kind of what your levers are. So I think, anything you can do, a business degree is great, anything around understanding data and data elements. I feel like I was more successful as a sales manager because I had a data orientation to it. And and it's a beautiful science, right? This number of contacts to customers, I know my conversion rate. Team, if we just rally and do this many more contacts, sales go up. Right? If I can help you shorten the sales cycle, what are the levers I can pull to be more successful? I'm super competitive too. I think our prior speaker said the same thing. Doesn't like to lose. I discovered that about myself too. I'm super competitive. So I wanted to be number one in what I was doing. I wanted to be number one in that sales. So I wanted to know what levers I could pull to outpace the competition. I want to be the one going on the President's Club trip. I've won President's Club 7 times. It's glorious. It's every bit as wonderful as they say it is. They don't let me win it anymore now. We run it, but it's really cool. So I think business skills, understanding the sales process, being able to have that repeatable process, leadership skills certainly can help you for sure.
That's actually time.
Okay, all right, sorry. I'm available though, and I'll be at the job fair. So if you have other questions, thanks.